9.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mike Nesmith, and on my left is the delightful and charming personality, David Jones.
Thank you, Mike.
No sweat.
And on my left is the charming and delightful Peter Tork.
Thank you, David. And on my charming and delightful is the left moderator, Nikki Dolans.
Thank you, my charming panel.
Here we come, walking down the street. We get the funniest looks from everyone we meet. Hey, hey, we're the Monkees, and people say we monkey around, but we're too busy singing to put anybody down. We're just trying to be friendly. I'll come and watch you sing and play. We're the young generation, and we got something to say. Hey, we're the Monkees. You never know where we'll be found, so you better get ready. We may be coming to your town.
Was it a TV show? Was it a rock and roll group? I don't have any idea. I don't know. It was neither, and it was a little of both.
It was a TV recording, touring, merchandising project.
We became 4 musicians and 4 actors. Instead of 2 and 2, we became actors and musicians. And it crossed over, and it complemented each other.
It's like Leonard Nimoy really becoming a Vulcan. And that's what happened. And we became this band. And that's the amazing story, I think, behind the Monkees.
Hey, hey, mercy, woman plays a song and no one listens. I need help, I'm falling again. Play the drum a little bit louder, tell me I can live without her if I only listen to the band. Listen to the band. Listen to the band. Listen to the band.
I got a call from Bert Schneider and Bob Rabelson. Basically, they said, look, we want to do a show that's sort of an American kind of Beatles.
The thought was that a show that incorporated pop music and this, what it then was this radical new style of filmmaking, would be innovative.
We just try to make them were there 4 Monkees? Yeah. 4 footloose, you know, improvisational, zany guys.
Here we go, walking down the street. We had the funniest looks from everyone we meet.
Would this have been a hit had they been called, you know, the Aardvarks? Probably.
I said, that's the most stupid name I've ever heard. That's your first mistake. The other mistake is not getting guys who are, like, in a band already.
basically they decided what they would do was have open auditions. So they put the Madness thing, you know, Madness actors wanting to take part in the TV show, Ben Frank types. And as we all know, Ben Frank's is a restaurant on Sunset. It's a late night place. You can go there and get your eggs and bacon, you know, after you've been out on the razzle, whatever. And so Ben Frank types were long-haired, sort of beatnik weirdos from the 60s.
Oh, the auditions, yeah, were very extensive. I mean, they were weeks and weeks, I seem to remember, of singing and moving and acting and improvisation and playing an instrument. I played guitar at the time.
The four we chose were the ones that we all liked the best.
My name is David Jones.
My name is David Jones.
My name is David Jones.
Will the real David Jones please stand up? I am standing up.
I was born in Manchester, England, an industrial town. I was raised in Manchester till the time I was 14 years old, and then I moved to Newmarket to become an apprentice jockey, riding racehorses. It didn't work out because the agents took me up to London one weekend and I auditioned for the part of the Artful Dodger, and I got the role.
David was appearing on Broadway in Oliver.
What are we going to do if your dad finds out we're in love? Well, what did your sister say when she saw us kiss? Oh, what have I got to pay so she won't talk about this? So what are we going to do if your dad finds out we're in love? They've been saying wait until we're ready.
Well, Screen Gems got hold of me, and they decided that they wanted to find a vehicle for me. I came to California with Ward Sylvester.
We were going to establish a solo career for him.
I've offered you my Lovin' Spoonful collection, my Bobby Dylan records, my Blind Lemon Jefferson records, and this prize of my collection, Bobby Darin Sings His Bank Book.
Throw in the stones.
Okay. Let me see that. Davy Jones sings.
And then the monkey thing started to develop, and I was just perfect for that, you know. That was sort of like rock and roll, so they finally find a vehicle.
When they were going through all the screen tests that they had, they started calling me the guy with the wool hat. I said, yeah, well, bring wool hat back. Let's see wool hat again.
This is H.L. Nesmith. He owns a small spread in southern Texas. What's the name of the ranch again, Mr. Nesmith?
Houston.
I was born and raised in Texas, ordinary growing up. Stayed there until I was 20, and then I moved to Los Angeles.
Here he is, Michael Blessing. Let's hear it from Michael Blessing.
I chose the name Blessing out of the telephone book, and I didn't find anything in the A's that I liked.
I'm not a dream, I'm not an angel, I'm just a man. You're not a queen, you're just a woman. Hold my hand. We'll make a space in the lives we both had planned. And here we'll stay until it's time for you to go.
I used to cut class and take a chair and go and sit in the middle of the stage and look out at this empty house and just play like it was full of people screaming. And I kept thinking to myself, someday.
So I was sitting in the office auditioning, waiting for the Monkees audition, and Mike came in and said, "Hello, Pete."
Ladies and gentlemen, the dove, the bird of peace. I have placed the bird in the bag. I'm going to make the bird disappear. I blow up the bag.
Well, I believe my parents when they tell me that I was born in Washington, D.C., February 13th, 1942. Yeah, I flunked out of college for the second time. And my father said, well, what are you going to do? I said, well, I think I'll go to New York to seek my fame and fortune. I didn't find it there. There wasn't any there. I came to L.A. in 1965. And then I played piano for Steve Stills and Ron Long, who were called the Buffalo Fish. Steve was my buddy from the village. We had known each other. We were the kids who looked alike. Steve called and said, Peter, I've just met this guy who is doing a TV show based on A Hard Day's Night, and you should come up and try out. I went, yeah.
I'd been up for like 3 or 4 shows that month.
I don't like it painted red. Take a memo. Going into production for my new film, The First 10 Days of Pompeii. Have the ad read, you've read the book, now see the movie. M.D. Somebody write a book called The First 10 Days of Pompeii.
Well, I was born here in Los Angeles and grew up in a show business family. And then the first series I had was Circus Boy when I was 10. I rode an elephant around for 3 or 4 years. The first interview was very unusual. I walked into this office and there was pizza cartons everywhere and Coke cans and these 2 guys sitting around in jeans and T-shirts, and I thought they were like the guys that brought in the pizza, and they were the producers. And so that was a big difference, you know, for someone like myself who'd been to a lot of auditions in Hollywood and television companies. It was usually some big guy in a suit and a cigar going, yeah, kid, well, tell me a little about your background. I even remember at the time I thought, I really want this one. This is kind of cool.
And this is Mike Nesmith, Mickey Dolenz,
And Peter Tom.
and Davy Jones,
And Mickey Dolenz.
reminding you to save the Texas prairie chicken.
Here we come, walking down the street. We get the funniest looks from everyone we meet.
So all of a sudden, I was put with these other 3 boys. I didn't want to analyze them. I just wanted to do the job. I was playing the part of a rock and roll singer in a TV series.
He's in love.
Yeah, for the very first time today.
Tell me, Mr. Jones, what do you look for in a girl?
Well, it all depends what I've lost. Davey can be the short one. Oh, I got that part, did I?
You are too short. You are too short, and you have no ear for music.
Who's this bearded weirdo?
With malice towards none and charity for all.
Very nice indeed, but he doesn't have the looks.
Well, how about if we shave him?
No, it wouldn't help,
That's it. That's perfect. That little wave of hair, and the little green hat sitting casually cocked on his head.
Mike was kind of a Will Rogers kind of a character.
A jug of bread, a loaf of wine, and thou beside me in the wilderness.
Oh, Peter, you've quoted the most beautiful poetry I've ever heard.
Does that mean we can go out together tonight?
No.
Why not?
Let's face it, man, you're a sissy.
Well, I was just me, the hero, the dummy.
No, Peter.
No, Peter. Yes, Peter.
Peter had the toughest acting job because the character that Peter plays on the show is nothing like really he is in real life.
Well, I want to tell you about over here, camera. I want to tell you about my family now. Now, take my wife. Please take my wife. Oh, my wife. She talked so much, I sent her to Florida last week. She came back with a burnt tongue.
As a video comedic group, it was Mickey, who could go nuts and who could trip out and who could deliver the lines.
They also have insufferable tortures here on Earth. Whenever a pussycat cries, they tear off its head.
Definitely not.
Then they holler in its ear.
Right.
And then they put the head back on the body. I don't know how it stays alive.
Mickey could be the funny one because he's funny. He looks funny.
I'm not acting strange. I'm acting perfectly normal. There's nothing strange about me. Don't tear off that cat's head again. I can't stand it.
Mary, Mary, where you going to? Mary, Mary, can I go to? This one thing I will buy you. I'd rather die than to live without you. Mary, Mary, where you going to?
Who ever heard of a drummer singing? You know what I mean? The drummer can't sing.
Mickey got the drummer's part because they asked for a volunteer, and Mike, Peter, and myself took one step back, you know, and there was, oh, I guess you're the drummer.
Mary, Mary, where are you going to?
And Larry Tucker and I are in the pilot. We opened the show. It's pretty funny, if I say so myself.
Dr. Turner, recently in our fair city, there have been many acts of violence committed right in the streets in full view of people like yourself.
Disgusting.
They have just stood by and watched people being brutally attacked.
Deplorable.
How do you feel about that, sir?
Disgusting. It's each man's solemn duty to protect his fellow citizens.
And if you saw a fight or a person being beaten taking place right here in
I would involve myself physically. I would come in fists and feet flying. I would give them... I tell you something right now.
Grab him!
Some innocent bystander, please help me. How about you, sir?
It was done in the quick-cut Richard Lester style, very in-your-face.
Standards and practices said you had to have parents there. So I think under duress, Bob and Bert had put in a manager. In your pilot, originally, we had this manager who ran a record store.
Wool hat, take the boys right over to the Riviera Country Club. You're going to audition for a Mr. Russell.
Hey, you're putting us on.
Nope.
Oh, really? That's just great.
Thanks, Rudy.
And pilot tested very badly, I understand, when it first went out.
It really was a disaster. It may have been the lowest-rated pilot they had ever tested. So Rafelson's listening to the focus groups, and they're getting the guys mixed up. They're saying Mickey when they mean Davy. Rafelson said, well, you know, the problem is they don't know who these guys are. I learned who they were from their screen tests.
All right, let me ask you something. I mean, like, do you make a folk sound or a rock sound or anything like that?
I make a terrible sound, but...
Hey, let me see you do the song and dance you do.
Song and dance I do?
Cartwheel, something. Do something, quick.
A song and... You must be joking.
No, I'm not.
What do you want me to do?
Sing? Dance one of your little quick things. Hey, Davey, you want to know something? Honestly, hold it for a second. What? I really think you should have been a jockey. Mike, let me ask you something. Do you think you can play another part? A part of another guy?
What is that? What do you want me to be? Strong and silent?
Yeah, be strong and silent. Hey, well, now be a girl. Mike did the same thing.
Well, I mean, that's your hang-up, man. Not mine. I mean, I know where it's at.
Were you ever a strong and silent girl before?
Have you ever had that?
And Bob brought it back in and re-edited it and put in the interviews and took out the manager.
And the rating went off went through the roof.
That worked. It sold.
Once upon a time in the land of Kirshner.
My job basically was to pick the songs, get a song in each show, and I became the supervisor of the music, the albums, and I had creative control on the entire project.
He was the guy that put songs in TV shows and movies and da-da. You came to him. He had them, the Carole Kings and the Neil Diamonds and the Sadakas and the Nielsen's and Carol Bayer Sager, Barry Mann, Cynthia Wilde, Lieber and Stoller, you know, Sears and Roebuck, you know, Neiman Marcus. He had them all under contract, you know.
The first song we did was Last Train to Clarksville, which was really a departure, but I felt with the train sound that Tommy Boyce and Bobby Hart wrote for me and the promotion we had, it would be #1.
Take the last train to Clarksville, I'll be waiting at the station. Well, I'll turn the party for later kisses and a bit of conversation. Oh, no, no, no.
It was a very smart idea to combine the visual, a sitcom, with a group that could sell records. And, of course, the songs were a big part of it, and I think that having the Nevins-Kirshner music stable of writers was just a wonderful part of the Monkees' success.
I thought Tommy Boyce and Bobby Hart had a great collection of material, all different kinds of songs. And I really think, you know, they were the best for the Monkees.
Take the last train to Clarksville and I'll meet you at the station. You can be here by 4:30, 'cause I laid your reservation. Don't be slow. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, no, no, no. And I don't know if I'm ever coming home. Take the last train to Clarksville. Take the last train to Clarksville. Take the last train to Clarksville.
Mickey Dolenz and I were sitting outside our house in Beverly Glen, and all of a sudden, Last Train to Clarksville came on. We just went, yeah, you know, almost jumped through the roof, you know, and it wasn't even a convertible. So we went, wow, it's incredible. Oh, God, this is it. We're hugging each other, you know. I think the song Last Train to Clarksville was #1 before the show hit the air. And then they proceeded to argue, you know, what was making it, the records making the TV making the records.
The idea was that the success of the record would drive viewership to the first episode.
Man, they're the most. Man, they're the Monkees. Take the wildest ride of your life with the world's zaniest string quartet. Swing with the Monkees at 7:30, 6:30 Central Time.
The Monkees was a television show about a group like the Beatles. We used to make fun of other groups and of the Beatles and throw darts at Beatle posters, like, because of the supposed jealousy.
There was about 4 guys that lived in a house in Malibu Beach, and they're 4 guys with no father figure, no authority, except occasionally Mr. Babbitt would come in and say, you know, your rent's due.
I am kicking you out.
Hey, what's the matter? We paid the rent the 1st of September.
Yeah, but that was for July.
And the show very nearly didn't get on television because it was so out there and so alternative. I mean, believe it or not, that, you know, long hair at that time was still synonymous with crimes against nature. So here come the Monkees, just fun-loving guys, and the little kids go, look, Mommy, they have long hair and they don't do horrible, nasty things.
Wait! What?
What is it?
A brilliant idea.
Well?
That's what we need, a brilliant idea.
Well, where are we going to get that?
I've got it. Got to talk to the writers.
Hi, fellas. Listen, we need an idea for the show, you know. Gotta be something fast and groovy and hip and everything, you know. Can you do it?
The guys who wrote the stuff in the early days, they wrote a lot of very conventional kind of comedies. And then they turned us loose on them.
We had to go and spend a night in a haunted castle, or we had to spend a night working in a restaurant, or whatever it took to do it to pay the rent.
A toy factory needs unskilled help in an unessential job requiring no training or no experience.
Hey, Peter.
I apply for a job, or the Peter Tork character, there is some difference here, applies for a job and is interviewed by a machine.
Your name, please.
What?
Thank you. Last name, Watt. And your first name, Mr. Watt.
It's not Watt.
Not Watt. Mr. Not Watt Watt.
First of all, you got my name wrong.
Correction. Name misspelled. Please give correct letter.
Well,
Correct letter is I. Name is not Watt, but Nitwit. Brother is also a nitwit.
Now, just a minute.
That will do, Nitwit. Test complete. Interview ended. Application rejected.
I like that whole, you know, so I'm sort of like a romanticist, you know. I like the idea of that, you know, the swashbuckling one, you know, where I'm fencing on the table, you know, and doing all that. You know, I see myself as sort of like a pirate, Errol Flynn type.
Guys, listen, guys. We know who you are, so don't try to deny it. We also know where you live, or else how could we have sent this letter? We're coming to get you, so don't leave. This is a threatening letter and a warning. Unless you return the microfilm and get off, the ranch will kill you.
Don't worry about it, Peter. There's nothing in the world can go wrong.
All right, give me the microfilm.
Wait, guys, wait a minute. Wait, guys, you have to do the scare. The old monkey scare. The scare is very funny. Try the scare. You know, you go, that bit, okay? One more time.
Well, Jim had an awful lot to do with what the Monkees were on television.
Jim encouraged us to loosen up, to improvise with each other, and he gave us the room to really trust our instincts. The whole show was set up in a way so that we could go crazy and run around. But it was disciplined enough so that we didn't lose sight of the story. The result was an innovative mixture of music and comedy that was totally new to television.
I think one of the successes of the show was the fact that the comedy was not topical and not satirical. And I think they worked at that pretty hard. They wanted to make it timeless. The Monkees was the Marx Brothers, basically, with music.
Monkey Men! Up and away!
One of the highlights of each episode was the romp, sort of a silent movie comedy cut to whatever song we were plugging that week. This is where we really had an opportunity to cut loose and show off our improvisational skills.
You're trying to make your mark in society. You're using all the tricks that you used on me. You're reading all them high-fashion magazines. The clothes you're wearing, girl, are causing public scenes. I said, I'm not your stepping stone. I'm not your stepping stone. Girl, you didn't have no shoes, but now you're walking around like your front page news. You've been awful careful about the friends you choose, but you won't find my name in your book of who's who's. I said, I'm not your stepping stone. Oh, girl, not me. I'm not your stepping stone. Just stepping stone. I'm not just stepping stone. 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 No, girl, I'm not just stepping stone. Not just stepping stone. Not just stepping stone.
Hey, look who fly.
Oh, Peter?
No, speeding bullet's much faster than that.
And then, our most recent hit.
I felt that if I could have Mickey Dolenz sing to every girl in America, I saw your face and I'm a believer, it would be a #1 smash.
I thought love was only true in fairy tales, and for someone else, but not for me. Our love was out to get me. That's the way it seemed. Disappointment haunted all my dreams. Then I saw her face. Now I'm a believer. Not a trace of doubt in my mind. I'm in love. I'm a believer. I couldn't leave her if I tried. I thought love was more or less a given thing.
What I remember about Mickey singing I'm a Believer was how his quality of his voice and the way he sings was different. He brings an acting ability.
When I needed sunshine, I got rain. Oh, then I saw her face. Now I'm a believer. Not a trace of doubt in my mind. I'm in love. I'm a believer. I couldn't leave her if I tried. It's a solid face. Now I'm a believer. I'm not a trace of doubt in my mind. Said I'm a believer, yeah, 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 yeah. Said I'm a believer, yeah. I'm a believer.
Well, the TV show never got great ratings, which surprised me. It was the records that were really the big, big hit. and got most of the notoriety.
What was making it work was the size of the machine, of the marketing.
Double good. Kellogg's best to you. Some guys have it. Some guys never will. Some guys have it. Some guys never will. Yardley, Black Label, Yardley, he's able.
It's the whole scene when you splash on Yardley Black Label, the new aftershave that's really out of sight. Be the guy who's got it all. Black Label, get it.
Cornflakes, okay, but men's cologne.
It was too intense. The days was filled with being a monkey.
Or anywhere, just look over the shoulder.
Go away, will you please? Where's the disc jockey?
It was inconvenient to go out.
The winner is the Monkees.
To the Monkees, who really won the award. Thank you.
Hey, we're the Monkees, and people say we monkey around, but we're too busy singing to put anybody down.
So it's hard to believe Davey seems to have time for everyone and time to do everything. He's just plain fantastic. But not as great as this guy.
Mike's the quiet monkey with the drawly, groovy voice. And you have to understand, if you get caught, it's not like you're a human being anymore. It's like you're a souvenir. And they don't care what part of you they're going to take home. They're going to take home some part of you. And it's not just clothing we're talking about either. We're talking about eyes and wisdom teeth and whatever they can rip off.
Peter stated it real well. Your life when you go out on the road turns into an endless tunnel of just limousines and airplanes and hotel rooms. And then all of a sudden there's one brief period of light, and that's when you walk out there on the stage.
Okay, good fellas, come on, inside.
Come on, get in the car, fellas.
Come on, let's get going.
Let me ask you, if you really found out that none of us could play a note and couldn't carry a tune in the bucket, would you hate us?
No.
No? Why is that?
Well, because you're putting people on pretty good if you don't.
That's great. We were backstage, and it's like 2 minutes before we're supposed to go on. And this guy walks up, he's got a reporter, you know, like that, and he goes, I'm standing with my guitar over my back. And he walks up and he says, is it true that you don't play your own instruments? I said, wait a minute, I'm fixing to walk out there in front of 15,000 people, man. If I don't play my own instruments, I'm in a lot of trouble.
When that whole Monkees is the prefab, don't play their own instruments controversy blew up, which was pretty big noise for a while. What we got from all of the young pop rock wannabe, would-be musicians was that the Monkees had no right to be where they were as far as their music went. The studio musicians made their music, they didn't write it, they didn't perform it, one of them sang, it doesn't count, it's not real, it's bogus.
It didn't matter if it was the Monkees or Elvis Presley or Frank Sinatra. Everybody cut the same way in those days. There was always studio musicians would go in and do the tracks, and the lead singer would come in.
Nobody played their own music. The Mamas and the Papas didn't play their own music. They had people playing it.
I was guilty because we were fake, I thought.
I actually think that people believed there actually was this, that like Laverne and Shirley, the Monkees actually all like lived in some house on Laurel Canyon or something and hung out together and like wrote songs together.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You like it? That's terrible. That's the worst thing.
Thanks very much, fellas.
We wanted to be the musicians in the studio. That's all we asked for. Kirshner, whose idea of control was everything in place, saw this as the barbarians at the gates of the Holy Roman Empire, and he wasn't having any of it.
And he also said, you know, you guys have got to sing and you got to play like we say to do it. Just get a grip, pal. This is not an enforceable covenant.
And the order came to Kirshner. The next single must have the lads themselves, the boys themselves, being the studio musicians on the B side. So Donnie put out a record where professional studio musicians had done both sides, released the record in Canada only. Fired him, bam, just like that.
They didn't like it, and so the easy way they thought they would get rid of me at the time was by firing me. Only time I ever got fired.
And we did manage at that point to wrest the control of the records and what was going to be released, what was going to be recorded and all that. We managed to totally control that from then on. And record sales plummeted. But we didn't care because we were doing what we wanted to do.
Burning from the rising heat, the furnace place to hide. The grass is always greener growing on the other side. No time. No time, no time. No time for you. No time, no time. I got no time, baby. Got lots of better things to do. No time. Welcome to Georgia, in our town.
You know, there was another organization that was set up to make their records, and suddenly we're being rebels here and having to do it all for ourselves and do something real, and so it was scary.
And we were determined to play every little stinking note on every little track.
It wasn't until headquarters came out that there was really a basis for the Monkees' music, and then it went on from there. And it did better and better, I thought.
Just a loudmouth Yankee, I went down to Mexico. I didn't have much time to spend, about a week or so. There I lightly took advantage of a girl who loved me so. But I found myself thinking when the time had come to go. What am I doing hanging around? I should be on that train and gone. I should be riding on that train to San Antone. What am I doing hanging around?
Pleasant Valley Sunday is probably my favorite of all the Monkee tunes, on the whole. It just had everything going for it.
Pleasant Valley Sunday I first heard as a wonderful demo by Carole King, and I felt it needed an intro, so I kind of made this thing up that went with it, which I... I taught that to Mike Nesmith.
The local rock group down the street is trying hard to learn their song. Serenade the weekend squire just came out to mow his lawn. Another Pleasant Valley Sunday. Charcoal burning everywhere. Rows of houses that are all the same, and no one seems to care. Creature comfort goes, they only know my soul, and make it hard for me to see. My thoughts all seem to stray to places far away. I need a change of scenery. Another Pleasant Valley Sunday. Charcoal burning everywhere. Another Pleasant Valley Sunday. Here in Status Symbol Another Pleasant Valley Sunday. Another Pleasant Valley Sunday. Another Pleasant Valley
For the benefit of the three people in the audience who don't know what it's all about, it's about the Monkees. 4 young men who flew into London to perform in this country for the first time. Mickey, Davy, Peter and Mike. Just arrived from Paris.
People say we monkey around. We're too busy singing to put anybody down.
Scenes reminiscent of Beatlemania. Thousands of kids going crazy to get near them. Think they've all gone monkey nuts.
We've got something to say.
We asked them if they take drugs.
Not yet. Coffee. I drink coffee. That's about the worst drug that I take.
I took aspirin once.
We
destroyed my head, and it provided me with a lot of inspiration, too. I'm going to write a song on the next call.
I have a real problem that I get high on one-a-day vitamins, you know? So anything else really wastes me.
I drink chlorine with a Drano back.
X-Lax does it to me.
Around His Casket was a song I wrote in England when I was there on tour. And it was quite simply about my experiences there.
She's a wonderful lady and she's mine, all mine. And there doesn't seem a way that she won't come and lose my mind. It's too easy humming songs to a girl in yellow dress. It's been a long time since the party and the room is in a mess. The 4 kings of EMI are sitting stately on the floor. There are birds out on the sidewalk and a valet at the door. He reminds me of a penguin with few and plaster hairs, talcum powder on the letter, and the birthday boy is there. Why don't you cut your hair? Why don't you live up there? Why don't you do what I do, see what I feel when I care?
Just free association, a song I was just kicking around. References to the woman that was going to become my first wife, Samantha. References to the Beatles.
No, the Beatles liked them a lot. They're very warm. I mean, they were very warm guys. And still are, some of them.
And somebody set up for me to meet Paul McCartney, and that was going to be the big Monkey-Beatle meeting. You know, Monkey meets Beatle. And I brought an autograph book. I was just like, we just had a great chat, and I was thrilled.
Well, I was told that John Lennon said, the Monkees are nothing like the Beatles. They're more like the Marx Brothers. Which was right, we were.
They admired us very much for the ability to go into the studio and make television day in and day out.
And he walks on stage and starts playing the guitar with his teeth. And I said, hey, that's the guy that plays guitar with his teeth. And just simultaneously, by coincidence, we needed an opening act for the tour.
He was opening in front of us, and of course, you know, he walked in to the beast. He walked into, there were the waving pink arms, you know, 20,000 pink waving arms like this. So every time he would say, Foxy, so everybody would go, David, Foxy, David. Oh man, it was some seriously twisted moment.
So he went, nah, what's the point? He did about 8 concerts with us, and at Forest Hill Stadium, he just like took his guitar off, he got hold of the end of it, and he threw it at the audience.
We came back after this, after the Beatles and Jimi Hendrix and Life on the Road, being credible pop stars. Now we're on Gower and Sunset at 6 o'clock in the morning, sober, you know, trying to be funny, and our heads were in the clouds.
39. You got speed. Everybody's in position. Boys in position. Boys, you can be in position already.
Already in position.
Right, you're in position. Yes.
In position. Hello.
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 Hello. Hello.
Oh, wait, that's Monkey.
I hate these kids.
So they couldn't have controlled us if they wanted to. It was just, oh, hey, camera, hi, camera, oh, whoa.
If we started laughing sometimes, and we'd be laughing till 10 o'clock, they'd have to close the set down.
That's it. In 12 hours, he forgot how to talk. I mean, anybody can forget how to talk in 12 hours. Well, then it's simple. All we do is teach him to talk.
How?
What did you say?
Because we were full of ourselves, no question about it. You know, who wouldn't be?
Hello. I'm Mike Nesmith, and I'm one of the Monkees. Tonight, as my guest on this wonderful television program, which has done so much for all of you young people out there, I have as my special guest none other than Frank Zappa.
Hi, kids. Hi, Mike.
Hi.
It's really a pleasure to be here.
It is? They have a lot of zany stuff on this program, don't you think?
It took the first year for us to get into the swing of what we were doing. That's why I wish that we'd done more shows.
And it worked for a long time, until Mickey wanted to direct, and Mike wanted to write all the music, and Peter wanted to play on all the records, you know. And I probably was a pain, too.
So, Jim, it's the same on every show we do, man. The same.
It's terrible.
It's
You
the
can't
same
do that.
story, and they change it around.
We'll see you next week, kids.
Yeah, we'll think of something by then.
Yeah.
When everybody started to want to do everybody else's job, that's when it all sort of like went, you know, the sort of like the deckhands taking over the ship.
At some point, I asked Bob if I could direct an episode, and he said, yeah, sure.
Well, my favorite episode was The Frodo's Caper, a show that Mickey wrote and directed.
That's Peter. Peter. Peter.
Are you...
Look. It looks like that TV has put him in some kind of trance.
Don't be silly. That's nothing but a test pattern.
Mike, are you sure it's a test pattern?
Wait a minute.
Mike, this sure it's a... Mike! Wow. What was that? Man, I don't know. It was not a test pattern. It was unbelievable.
You're telling me it was unbelievable, and you think that was something. You ought to see what happens after the commercial.
It was the last Monkees episode ever to be aired on the television.
Bob and Bert, I think, were fed up with the whole bloody thing and wanted to start making movies. Head. So we all piled up in Mike's limo and met Bob and Bert and Jack in Ojai up here in California at a golf resort. And we just sat there for 4 days rambling in tape recorders. And out of that came the movie Head.
When we set out to make Head, the movie, we decided that the last thing we wanted to do was to make a 90-minute Monkey episode. As it turned out, it seemed to show the four monkeys trying to escape our manufactured teeny bopper image. It was a surreal and somewhat experimental look at where we fit into the media landscape. A producer's way of saying goodbye, boys.
Get up, lady. You're not dead. Hey, lady, come on, get up. Stop acting.
Hey, what is this?
Hey, come on. Stop playing. It's all over. It's an act. Come on, get up.
Well, stop kicking me.
Oh, I don't want to do this anymore, man. Oh, these fake arrows and this junk and the fake trees. Bob, I'm through. Oh, stinks, man.
Hey, well, Mickey, wait a minute.
Well, Mickey, wait a minute.
The promotional campaign for the movie was so, well, it looks like it was calculated to sink the movie.
Ed was not advertised as a Monkees film.
This is not like advertising. It's like a face going, Ed, Ed.
So if they wanted to kill the Monkees, if they wanted to kill the movies, the phenomenon, the Monkees project, boy, they did a pretty good job.
I'd like the Monkees remembered for exactly what it was. A television show about a group, and the members of that, the cast, shall we say, the cast of that television show actually did pull it off.
It's one of those things that just kind of happens every once in a while, and nobody really understands why. And I don't.
We did play, we did perform, we did make music, and we've made music recently. It's not like we weren't anything. We weren't nothing, we were something. We weren't nothing.
Even now, I hear the songs on the radio, and people say, hey, I heard Daydream Believer on the radio. Hey, I Believer was on the radio. I mean, there must have been some sort of something to it.
Oh, I could hide neath the wings of the bluebird as she sings. The 6 o'clock alarm would never ring, but it rings and I rise, wipe the sleep out of my eyes. My shaven razor's cold and it stings. Cheer up, sleepy Jean. Oh, what can it mean to a daydream believer and a homecoming queen? You once thought of me night on his steed. Now you know how happy I can be. Oh, and our good time starts and ends without $1 to spend. But how much, baby, do we really need? Cheer up, sleepy Jean. Oh, what can it mean to a daydream believer and a homecoming queen? Cheer up, sleepy Jean. Oh, what can it mean to a daydream believer and a homecoming queen? Cheer up, sleepy Jean. Oh, what can it mean to a daydream believer and a homecoming queen? Cheer up, sleepy Jean. Oh, what can it mean to a daydream believer and a homecoming queen?
Imagine no possession. I wonder if